I often hear, hey, my CPA saved me $5,000 worth of taxes last year. They're fantastic.
Yeah. Are you
Well,
sure?
you know what? If you were knowing what's going on in your business for the full year, you could have saved yourself $20,000 or
Yeah.
more.
Hello and welcome to Pillars of Wealth Creation, where we talk about creating financial success with a special focus on business and real estate. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer. Now, let's get to it. Hello and welcome back to Pillars of Wealth Creation. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer. With me, excited to have Melissa Houston. Melissa, how are you doing today?
I am doing great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited about being here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for joining me. It's a little bit about Melissa. She's a CPA, financial strategist for CEOs. She's a columnist at Forbes and is the host of the Business Society podcast. And Melissa helps successful business owners increase their profit margins without having to increase their revenue, which is pretty sweet because then we get to keep more money into our pocket, reinvest it back into our business if we so choose. So Melissa has over 20 years of business experience with large and small corporations, governments, and nonprofits, while specializing in internal controls, corporate accounting, budgets, financial reporting, corporate and personal tax, audit, and all kinds of other crazy stuff. So, um,
Putting people to
so
sleep there.
putting people to sleep. So anyways, with that said, Melissa, why don't you give our listeners like just the quick and dirty? What do you actually do?
So what I do is I started my business a few years ago, and I focus on helping business owners create more wealth for themselves. So as a business owner, you're in a unique position because your business can be your biggest financial asset. So what we do is we work through making that business as profitable as it can be through knowing your numbers and not checking out of your business finances and ensuring that you're meeting your financial goals. And then you take that revenue, or sorry, that profit, and you either, like you said earlier, reinvest it into your business, or if you're at that sweet spot where you really want to enjoy life, you withdraw it from your business and focus on building your personal net worth.
Yeah, love it, love it. Hi, and that's a super important topic to talk about because a lot of business owners really struggle, I think, with revenue.
Yeah.
They maybe generate revenue, but they don't actually generate potentially much profit. So,
Mhm.
you know, we laughed before the show. I love talking about. I love seeing the hey, we've got our businesses, 7 figures, 8 figures, 9 figures. Yeah, but then you go, okay, that's great, but your profit margin is pretty much zero. And
Yeah.
so you really, yeah, you have a business that creates $20 million worth of revenue, but it really creates almost zero profit. So let's talk about that.
Yeah,
What
let's
do you
definitely
see?
get into that. I
Yeah.
love that topic because, through my 20 years of experience, I have worked with all sizes of corporations, and these multi-million dollar corporations, I have seen them go under. And the primary reason that businesses go under is because of financial mismanagement. So the key reason being, if you're not being profitable or you're not creating profit consistently, then you're putting your business at financial risk. So I'm with you, especially in the online space. I hear a lot of conversations about, I've had this big, 7-figure launch, or, my business is 7 or 8 figures or whatever. And I hear those messages too. And I think, okay, what's really going on?
Yeah.
Are you making money? Because you can spew out those numbers to me, but what really impresses me is your profit line. So if your profit margins are comparable to your industry standards, that is one thing I would look at. Absolutely. And quite often, I notice when I start digging in with people, a lot of business owners don't even know if they're being profitable or not.
Hmm.
So the way they're judging their profit is what's going on in their bank account. If they've got cash in the bank, it's like, okay, I've got money, I can spend it. But
Hmm.
cash in the bank does not equal if your business is actually profitable or not.
Wow. Yeah, that's a definitely a good point. And I think I I would agree. A lot of business owners have no clue. So what are some things they can do to, maybe they're at that step where they got 7-figure business, things look good on
Mhm.
the outside, but on the inside, they're not really making as much money as what they should be.
Yeah, exactly.
What kind of steps can they take? What do you see? Maybe the most common things that you see.
The most common things I see is that the business owner is not familiar with the income statement. And the income statement is really the most important financial report that you could have in your business. It's not the only important report, but it's the one that you're going to use the most. So get familiar with that income statement, because what that income statement is, it's taking a period of time. So whether you're looking at it for a month, a quarter, or a year, you are looking at, let's just say we'll look at it on a monthly basis. So we're in October right now. So if we looked at September 2021, what was going on in our business that month? You generate your income statement typically from your accounting software.
Mhm.
And what it's supposed to do is add up all the revenue that you've earned in that month and then all the expenses that you earned in that month. So the revenue less the expenses equals, if you're positive, you've got a profit, and if you're negative, you're operating at a loss. So it's extremely important to know that, because that is basic financial information. And with that income statement, you can get so much information from it. You know where you're exceeding your expenses. Like if you've got runaway, advertising expenses, that's a common one. You know, sometimes people don't realize that they've spent, 10, 20, $50,000 on advertising when they've only brought in $30,000 of revenue for that time period. So let's say month. That's a big problem. So if you're not aware that you're making these mistakes, then you'll never be able to correct them. So that's why it's important to always look at your income statement on a monthly basis at minimum.
So really just diving into it. So not even look, I mean, yeah, you want to see if you're profitable, but then we got to dive in deeper and we got to look at, okay, where's all this money going? We got this money
Exactly.
coming in, but where's this money going out and what can we do to stop some of that bleeding?
Yeah, exactly. And once you get familiar with what's going on in your business, like currently, what I find often is business owners don't have a direction for their business. So they don't really understand where they want to go or how they're going to get there. So they may have this vague idea, okay, I eventually want to be a 7-figure business, and that's it. There's no plan, there's nothing, right? So what I love to do is teach my clients how to create that financial plan for your business. So what you're going to do is create what we call in accounting, it's an operating forecast, but I always talk about it as being a financial plan so I don't scare people away. So that financial plan is looking at, looking forward at the next 12 months coming and really getting clear on what your goals are and how you're going to get there. So you break each month down for the year, and it's like a roadmap. You're like, let's say you
Yeah.
want to make $1 million of revenue for the year, and what you're currently at, let's say you're at 100,000 per month, then that's great. You can maintain it. But if you're at $10,000 a month, making $1 million by the end of 12 months may be a little unrealistic. But you can create that plan to maybe get you to 200 or 500 in revenue for that year. And then what you do is, once you've got that plan going and you've mapped everything out and seen how your revenue less your expenses will leave you with X amount of profit. So when you're comfortable with the profit levels, you've tweaked everything, because it's a game too, right? You're going to have to see how much revenue you need to bring in to meet the minimum expense requirement that you have per month. So you'll understand your break even point, and then you'll understand where additional revenue is kind of like gravy, right? And you'll see how the numbers work together. And so you've got that profit coming in, or you've planned that profit, and then you understand how you take that profit for that month and reinvest it into your business so that you're
Mm.
consistently growing it. So you take away the risk of growing without having that capital to support it, right? So then what you're going to do is, once you've got that 12-month operating plan in place, every month after that, you're going to um, run the reports where you check what you actually did that month against what you had planned. So if there is a discrepancy, if there's a variance where you didn't meet your revenue goals, or maybe you exceeded on in or your budget or what have you, whatever's going on, you're going to get that information and you're going to be able to analyze it and understand what the issues were. Like if you didn't make enough revenue, maybe it's because of a timing issue and the client's not paying you till the following month, or maybe it's because of exceeding certain expense. Like I love to pick on advertising because that is like a huge one, but there's other expenses, like maybe you're in too many mastermind courses or what have you, whatever's going on, right? But you understand where you need to cut those expenses and beef up that revenue so that you can meet your profit goals.
Yeah, yeah, really good. I mean, without looking at your financial statements, you just don't know. And
You don't know.
yeah,
And it's like driving a car blindly. Would you ever get in a car and not see where you're going? So, for most of us, our business is our baby,
right.
so why would we put that at risk and
Yeah,
not know where we're taking it?
why ignore it, right? And you know what's funny is like so many business owners, and I hear this. I'm in real estate, right? And so I hear like from people like, "Oh, I wouldn't give my property to a property management company because I know I can do it better myself." And people think the same thing about their finances, like, "Oh, I wouldn't ever hire somebody to do that because I can do it better myself," or I wouldn't hire somebody to analyze it because I can just do. I care more about it myself. Do you really, or are you just being sloppy and lazy? And are you actually driving blindfolded, like you said, like so many people are doing when they're running their business. I love
Yeah,
that you mentioned the expense part too, because that in my business, I hear, everybody wants to do this value add. They want to raise rents. We're buying large multifamily properties. And so you're raising rents, which we do in our business as well. But one of the biggest things I harp on is look at your expenses first, and what can we do to control our expenses? Because if we can
yeah,
control our expenses, we can do a lot more good on that property, and that's a lot longer lasting profit. A recession hits and rents go down potentially. Well, guess what? Your expenses aren't going to go up if you've learned how to control your expenses. Yeah.
exactly.
So I think that's so valuable to be able
It's
to
very
do.
valuable. I often equate it like, if you don't know what's going on in your expenses, adding revenue does not help because you're just essentially adding water in a leaky bucket. So
Mm,
you can
yeah,
keep adding that money onto the problem, but if
right.
that problem is not resolved, you're still wasting money.
Yeah, absolutely. So you say that giving away your financial power is the biggest mistake you'll ever make.
Yes.
Explain, what do you mean by
You
that?
make that sound so dramatic. Yeah, absolutely. So what I mean is that quite often I see people, you're hiring professionals to make decisions for you. And yes, professionals are very good to have, but if you don't understand why you're making those decisions, you're putting
Ah,
yourself at risk.
yeah.
So,
You're just
um,
blindly going about it, right?
exactly. So, what often happens is, let's say for financial advisors, if you go to them and you're like, okay, I want to open a investment portfolio, but I really don't know what to put in there.
Mm,
And say the financial advisor is paid through commissions. They're selling you mutual funds, which in
yep,
my opinion are never a great investment.
yep,
And you're like, okay, like let me buy all like I'm going to put all my money towards these mutual funds for you, and your financial advisor loves you. There's a reason why they love you. It's because you've just padded their pockets. So if you had taken the time to understand what you're investing in, you may have seen that those mutual funds were not the best investment for you.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Mutual funds make me shiver a little bit.
exactly. But so many people have invested in mutual funds.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
No, I love that. Take control of well, again, it's same philosophy, right? About your business. Like take control of your expenses, take control of where you're putting your money, what you're doing with it, how you're investing,
Yeah.
how you're, you
Yeah,
just
and
got to
I mean,
take
the same
complete
thing goes
control.
with your business. If you hire an accountant and you think that your accountant is taking care of you, and you know, y- if you had improvements to make or whatever
Mm,
that they're going to tell you, if you haven't actually engaged your accountant in that task, it is not their responsibility to give you that information.
right.
So quite often I see my clients thinking, well, wouldn't my accountant tell me that? No, they wouldn't, because you've engaged your accountant to check your books out, make sure they're in compliance, and complete your corporate tax return. That is all you've hired them for.
Yep. Yep.
So, this misinformation, you really need to get yourself informed so you understand what's going on. You don't give your financial power away, because that is essentially what puts you into trouble.
Yeah. I've got a good CPA. Well, are you sure you have a good CPA? Are you engaging your CPA?
Mhm.
Are you even doing what you think your CPA should be doing?
Yeah. And I often hear, hey, my CPA saved me $5,000 worth of taxes last year. They're fantastic.
Yeah. Are you sure?
Well, you know what? If you were knowing what's going on in your business for the full year, you could have saved yourself $20,000 or
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
Like, it's either doing a great job, I'm sure, but you need to understand what you need to be doing in your business,
Right.
especially with your money.
Right. So let's talk reserves. I'm a massive believer in large capital reserves. And I know there's a lot of people that aren't, especially in this time period where we've got high inflation. And you're going, well, if I've got cash reserves, that's just losing me money. So why would I have big cash reserves? What are reasons why your business should have cash reserves? And do you have any like guidelines for people?
Absolutely. I mean, the top reason to have cash reserves is to protect yourself from unexpected market disruptions, right? So the pandemic
Yep.
is a primary example.
Perfect example.
Yeah, so if you'd had those cash reserves on hand, that is a type of insurance to protect you from, these hiccups. I mean, it's kind of a big hiccup, but I think you know what I mean with when
Yeah.
we talk about the pandemic. But there's always going to be something going on in the market, so whether you are selling, I don't know, like widgets or whatever, like there'll be high demand at one point and then non-existent demand at another. So you really need to protect yourself from these cash fluctuations. And
Hmm.
having that cash reserve will help you carry your business through the harder times. Now, your point about having cash reserve and people thinking that they're losing value on their cash money, well, you can invest it short term while you've got that cash reserve, right?
Yeah. It
Like if
just
you've
needs
got
to be
an
liquid.
Exactly. I was just going to say that if you've got quick access, it's very liquid, you know, there's no harm in carrying that larger cash balance.
Hmm.
And like I said, it is an insurance for you.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. No, I see it all the time. It boosts projected returns. And so that's why one of the reasons why I think, especially in my industry, people don't have big cash reserves is because the more money you have to raise from investors, well, that dilutes returns. And so, well, we're just instead of having 6 months worth of if we're just going to do three, and we'll be okay. Hopefully, at least
Yeah,
cross our
that's risky.
fingers, right?
Risky behavior.
Yeah, yeah. Let's cross our fingers and hope.
Yeah.
And yeah, so, but hey, boost investor returns potentially, as long as everything goes swimmingly, right?
Yeah. As long as there's no pandemics.
Yeah. So, another topic I know you like to talk about is just money management tips for scaling. So, what are some money management tips for scaling? Maybe we've already hit on some of those as well.
Yeah, one thing we definitely didn't touch on is I'm a big promoter of understanding your profit margins. And if you are growing and scaling your business, like high growth periods can be very risky, right?
Yep.
People think that growth is amazing no matter what. But if you're growing quickly and you don't have that capital to support that growth, then you're going to run out of cash, and that's going to be very damaging for your business. I mean, you could possibly close your business because you've run out of money. So back to the earlier point, that's another reason, great reason to carry cash reserves numbers. But the other thing too is, as you're monitoring your profit margins month to month, you can see if your profit margins are being consistent, right? Because obviously if you're growing, your revenue is going to grow and hopefully your profit will grow as well. But the profit margin, let's say you've got typically a 20% profit margin that you want to keep to each and every month. um, you know, if you're monitoring it, you make sure that you're tight to that 20% each and every month as your revenue increases. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, love it.
I mean, and sometimes, especially in growth periods or startup periods, you're not going to make a profit each and every month.
Sure.
And that's okay as long as you are consistently growing and making that profit over time. So one bad month won't kill you, but a, a whole bad year might,
Yeah.
depending on how much capital you've got to carry yourself over.
One, especially if you're in that high accelerating growth mode where your expenses are increasing rapidly. Uh,
Hmm.
and yeah, if you have no margin, especially if you have negative margin,
Yes. Yes. That's
that
trouble.
can take you down really quickly.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, as they're in growth mode, have a high amount of debt that's coming, and yeah, I can see it snowball pretty quickly.
Yeah, exactly. And, people think that, like having all that money coming in, that they're going to be safe.
Yeah.
And it's just so not true because you can have those, um, you know, carried away expenses that are just going to kill you. So making sure that you are aware of what's going on in your business is important because 82% of businesses fail due to financial mismanagement. So
Mm.
you can have absolutely the best business idea ever, and you think that you're rock solid because your business idea is just going to make you so much money, but it doesn't quite work that way because a lot of it is timing. It's when the cash is coming in and when the cash has to go out. That is key in business.
I mean, that listen to that. 82% listeners,
82%.
82% of businesses fail because of cash or money mismanagement. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just simple. And man, you hear all these statistics and how many businesses fail, but when you look at that and you say, why do they fail? That's why they fail. So figure out your finances, figure out your profit margins, understand what's going on, and be familiar with your income statement. Um, yeah, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Um, so what's a mistake that maybe you've made, or what's a big mistake maybe that you can talk to our listeners about, and how have you learned from it, or how have you been able to lean into it?
I mean, I've definitely made the mistake of putting what's that expression, the cart before the horse. So I have invested into expenses thinking that it's going to generate me revenue right away. And I quickly learned that that's not the way it works. So because I monitor my money, I know that that didn't work and it's time to draw back because if I keep going in that direction, I will just fail at business. So sometimes you're going to try things and you're going to see they're not working and they're costing you more money than what you intended. And that's okay. It's okay to make financial mistakes because that's going to happen a lot in business. We don't have crystal balls. We don't know what's going to work and what won't, but you learn from your mistakes. So making sure that you recognize what's sucking out your money in your business quickly so that you can course correct early and not have it to be too damaging.
Yeah, for sure. um what are, personally for you, what are a couple of success habits, maybe some rocks, things that you do every single day, or every single week, to make sure you're on a successful track?
I check my budget weekly, at minimum weekly. I look at what I've spent, what I have coming in, what I had planned for. I'm constantly checking my expenses against what I had planned for. And when I get close to that, expense threshold, I make sure that I, cut back. Like, let's say for Facebook ads, that's a big one. Maybe I've budgeted to spend $5,000 in ads for a month. And by mid-month, I've met my threshold. So if I'm not making the revenue to compensate for that, I cut that back and wait. I just make sure that I don't let any of my expenses get out of control if they're not bringing me revenue. And another thing that I've learned, I have to focus on revenue generating activities in my business if I'm not generating revenue, right? So for me, being a writer, I write a lot, and that does not make the money that one would hope. So I have to focus on other activities that are going to increase my revenue and not spend so much time on the writing, where I love the writing. I could do it all day, but it takes discipline, right? So
Yeah.
I have to make sure that I'm focusing on the right activities to make my business thrive. And, I see this a lot with business owners. They may not be distracted with the writing, but they get distracted with the things that aren't making money, like the little admin tasks, like, especially if you're online based business, creating those graphics. I mean, some people spend hours and hours creating these beautiful graphics that are not generating revenue. And then they wonder why they're having trouble generating that revenue. So just really being focused, being mindful of the decisions that you're making in your business so that you are ensuring success in your business.
Yeah, I like that. That reminds me, I had a mentor that told me you got to look at, you got two categories. You got your brown category and you got your green category. And the brown category is not making any money. It's the dirt. And the green category is what's growing your business,
Yeah,
what's making it sprout. And you've got to really look hard at what you're doing on a daily basis and categorize that stuff into brown and green and try to get rid of all that brown time that you're spending. And man, when I did that for the first time, I'm like, holy cow, like when I look at my day, 8 to 10 hour day, it's like I'm spending 2/3 of it on the brown time.
yes,
And
yes,
and I should not be.
exactly,
And I have to redo, like I have to look at it all the time, and I need to look at it now. I mean, you have to look at it all the time because you end up picking up these little menial tasks that you shouldn't be doing.
exactly. And you can outsource those for a
Can
lot
outsource them.
cheaper. Yep. And make sure that you're focusing on the green stuff.
Yeah. But it's
Yeah, I
so
love that analogy with the brown and the green. That's perfect.
yeah, I mean, it's just, but it's so easy as a business owner to try to take control of everything and to
Yeah,
try to do it all. And I'm so guilty of it all the time.
yeah,
Where you just got to let some of that stuff go and focus on what's really going to help your revenue, really going to cut your expenses. Be
exactly.
in control.
And increase your quality of life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Increase the quality of life for sure. All right. So a couple last questions here before we wrap up. Um, you also talk about just the your mindset. Why wealth is possible for anyone. Uh,
Yes. Mindset is
why is
huge.
it?
Yeah. So mindset has a way of holding people back and people not even realizing that they're holding back, right?
Yeah.
So often, I mean, especially with women, I know it's very stereotypical, but what happens is business owners seem to think, well, I only need to make as much as I need to get by,
Hmm.
right? And my question is, I'll challenge you and say, well, why is just getting by good enough for you?
Yeah.
Why can't you look at the opportunity that you have here where you can generate some serious wealth for yourself? But if you're in that mindset of, well, I don't need that much money, or there's also fear based. There's a lot of fear of success. There's fear of failure, but I find there's more fear of success in
Mm.
business. So business owners, we get caught up in these emotions because money is the most emotionally charged topic there ever is, as far as I'm concerned. It brings up so many issues, so many past stories, so many, things that people haven't dealt with yet. And if you have like any sort of negative money mindset that's holding you back, it's going to affect your business.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the just getting by. Um, Man, it for me, if you got the gifts and the talents, if
Hmm.
you've got the ability, if you've got the dream and vision, like
Hmm.
just getting by is in my opinion eh, selfish,
Hmm.
right? You're just looking at yourself and just only getting by. you're not looking at, well, if you build a stronger business, a more profitable business, who's that going to help? That's going to help all the people that work for you. It's going to help all the people that you're surrounded by. And you know what? If you got a heart of giving, it's going to surround everybody that you give to as well.
Exactly. I love that. Yeah. Because quite often people think, well, I don't want to be greedy,
Right.
you
Well,
know, and it's like,
then
it's
don't be
not
greedy.
greed.
Don't keep it all for yourself then.
Exactly. There's a lot of good that money can do.
Yeah.
A lot of good.
Yeah. I love it. Love it. All right. So we have to wrap up, but I got a couple last questions. So first questions, what's your favorite book?
The Wealthy Barber, which you probably never heard of.
I have heard of
Oh,
it. I've
have you?
never read it, but
It
I
is a
have
good
heard of it.
book. Yeah.
The Wealthy Barber. And do you know who that's by chance?
David Chilton.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. I've heard of it once or twice. I'm gonna just have to get it now that you said it again. So
Yeah,
cool.
I read it. That was the first personal finance book that I read, and I read it in my early 20s, and it definitely changed my behavior towards money.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
great. Okay, so last question is, what are your 3 pillars of wealth creation?
I would say my 3 pillars are the first thing, money mindset. You know, just because I have a healthy money mindset today does not necessarily mean that it's going to be the same tomorrow. So I'm constantly checking in and being self-aware
Mm,
about my mindset.
I love that. Yeah, I'll always be aware of it, and it just, yeah, like you said, just because I have it today doesn't mean things don't disrupt it, and so
Yeah.
always be working on it.
Exactly. And then the second one I would say is I always stay current in the news, see what's going on in the economy, understanding, mortgage rates, inflation rates, what's going on in the stock market and stuff. So I can make informed decisions for my personal wealth. And then the third one I would say is I always diversify my investments.
Love it.
Diversification can protect you from fluctuations in other markets or just, various things that are going on. And if you got all your eggs in one basket and there's a catastrophe, then you've just financially sunk the ship. So I like to keep diversified.
That's great. Melissa, look, I really appreciate you joining us. It's such an important topic for people you said, 82% of businesses fail because of financial mismanagement. Most people aren't really looking at their income statements, at their profit margins. They don't understand really what's going on in their business. We're focused so much on growth. We're focused so much on, just a lot of the day-to-day stuff that we're not looking at our budgets weekly. We're not really paying attention to what's happening and how can we improve our business. Why grow your business if you're just creating more work with less profits or the same profits? It doesn't make any sense. So I love this topic, and thank you so much for adding a ton of value to our listeners. With that said, how can our listeners get in touch with you and learn more about what you're doing and have a conversation with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So my main website is melissahoustoncpa.com. And that's the best way to reach me. You can reach me at my email info@melissahouston.com. And I also have a blog called The Business Society. So it's thebusinesssociety.co. And what that blog is it talks about personal finance, business finance, and building a business.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And just the value you give people is pretty awesome. So listeners, take advantage of the free resources that Melissa's providing. Reach out to her again, and we'll put that all in the show notes for everybody. So again, Melissa, thank you so much. And you have a fantastic rest of the day.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been so much fun.
Hey, thanks so much for listening. I appreciate you being a loyal listener. I would love to have you go on to our Facebook page and subscribe, give us a thumbs up, go on to iTunes or wherever you listen and give us a rating and review. Don't forget to subscribe. But your rating and review just helps us push this out to more and more people and continue to grow our audience and hopefully positively affect a ton of people out there that really need this and want this. So the other thing I've got for you is a free ebook on my website. So go on to ventured.com VentureDproperties.com, VentureDproperties.com, and download our free ebook on real estate and on syndication. And I've got some data points in there, some really good stuff for you. So I'd love to have you take a look at that. It's free. I'm not expecting anything from it. And also, look, if you want some help in multifamily, want some help learning, growing, getting your business off the ground, I would love to talk to you about what it would look like to work with me potentially and see if that's a good fit. So you can go to coachwithdex.com and check that out, and we can definitely have a call. Thanks a lot for listening. You make it a fantastic rest of the day. I'll catch you on the next episode.